And looking at our kids where they are now, 27, 31, it's kind of hard to remember when they were small enough to even carry. Now they're out in the world making their own way.
It's a great feeling, but it's also a huge transition. I saw a post online from a mom recently whose daughter, she just turned 18, and the mom woke up on that birthday morning to an email from a lab company, and it basically said, "Happy birthday to your daughter. You are now locked out of her medical records."
Wow, that's a rough wake up call. Um, one day you're holding their hand in a doctor's visit, giving the whole medical history from birth till now, and the next day you're legally just an observer with zero input.
It really is. Most parents don't realize that the legal door slams shut the second that clock strikes midnight on their 18th birthday. Our guest on episode 19, April Adams Pertui, she lived through this transition in a very real way. Her son turned 18, and soon after, he was in pain, needing surgery.
I remember that. He was still in high school too, wasn't he?
Right.
Yeah. So she said because he was a legal adult, the doctors handed him the papers to sign. Even though he was in pain, he was the one who had to give permission for surgery. And April was just standing there watching him step into adulthood.
She even took a picture of him in that hospital bed signing those papers. It was such a powerful moment. It showed that he was ready to handle his own business. April did a great job being there as his support, but that moment was a wake up call for all of us. It reminded us that our job is to prepare them for that transition before the crisis happens.
I remember how when she was speaking, she had so much emotions in her when she was talking about that. So um, now, what we want to do is give folks the tools during the peacetime so they're not figuring out when they're sitting there waiting for her surgery to happen.
Exactly. That's the goal today. We want to help you coach your young adult through the process of completing their own medical power of attorney. This is so they can decide who they want to support them if they ever cannot speak for themselves.
Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Santiago, a parent, a high school teacher, and a veteran.
And I'm Honey. Hello. I'm also a parent, end-of-life planning doula, and a business owner. And we're on a mission to make planning for the what ifs in life a lot less scary.
Yeah, so in our last episode, we talked about how to choose the right person to speak for you. We called that person your agent. Today, we're moving into the how part. We're going to talk about the steps to complete your medical power of attorney form.
And we'll be using the eFile Texas website as our guide. It is a great tool that walks you through the whole process step by step.
Yeah, before we start, we have to share our disclaimer. We're not attorneys. We're not financial advisors, medical professionals, or any of that.
And this episode is for educational purposes only. We are focusing on Texas law because that is where we live. If you live in another state, please check your own local rules or feel free to reach out to us and we will help you find a resource.
Yeah. We always recommend also talking to an estate planning attorney if your budget allows it.
Mhm.
They're a great resource for family, especially those with special needs or blended families. But for many people, these free state forms that we're going to be covering are a perfect way to protect yourself right now.
And here's our essential question for today. How can you guide and educate your 18-year-old in completing their own medical power of attorney using the eFile Texas site?
Stick with us because we're going to show you how to make this a milestone of independence rather than a chore.
Okay, babe, so let's talk about the mindset here. As a teacher, I imagine you see kids every day who are right on the edge of turning 18. They want to be an adult, but they still need a little bit of coaching, right?
And there's a lot of kids that are under 18 that think they're adults already. But especially for my seniors, as they transition towards graduation, which right now we're in January, for them, I always remind them, hey, you're this many weeks away from graduation every Monday. So they understand how important that milestone is to step into the real world.
One recommendation would be before they turn 18 is to sit down with them and explain why this matters. Tell them that this form is their choice. It is their chance to pick who they trust to speak for them if they are ever in a medical emergency and cannot speak for themselves.
So what we're telling them is that they're the boss at that point. They get to pick their people, their person. Um, does it have to be their parent?
No, not at all. They might choose a parent, or they might choose a trusted sibling or a family friend. If they're going away to college in another city, they might even choose someone who lives closer to that school as their primary person, with a parent as a backup if they would like.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So once they're ready to start the form, where do they go when they jump on their computer?
Well, there are two great options in Texas. You can go to the Texas Health and Human Services website and download a PDF. It's available in English and Spanish. You just print it out and fill in the blanks.
But we like the other option for people who want a little bit more guidance, right?
Exactly. We recommend the eFile Texas website. We will put the link in the show notes. So what you'll do first is have your child create their own login,
That's really important. Can you tell us why they should have their own login, not one that's affiliated with their parents?
because this is their document. Creating their own account gives them ownership of their legal information. It is a great first step in managing their own adult business. Once they're logged in, they will look for the estate planning kit and click on the button that says execute interview.
Ooh, that sounds a little bit scary. Interview um, for a teenager that they might be a little overwhelmed.
All it really means is the site is going to ask them some questions to fill in the blanks. It is much easier than staring at a long legal form. And in episode 58, we went a little more in depth of what to expect upon that initial login to the eFile Texas website. So this episode, we're just going to jump right in. So after you enter your name and address, it will ask you if you already have a medical power of attorney. And if you say yes, it will provide information on how to cancel it.
So next, you'll be asked for the names and addresses of the agents you have chosen, like we talked about in the last episode. You should have your primary agent and an alternate, correct?
Exactly. An alternate agent is just a backup. If the first person cannot be reached, the doctor calls the second person.
What about the section for limitations? What does that part look like? Is it confusing?
Well, it can be. It seems confusing at first. It's just a spot where they can write down anything they specifically do not want their agent to do. For most people, there's nothing to include because they trust their agent to make the best call. And when there's nothing to include, the site suggests you write none. But if they have a specific religious rule or strong feeling about a certain treatment, they can put it there. And I also want to remind people too, when we went over filling out that living will, that was 3 episodes. We went deep into questions using the critical conditions planning guide from the Emory Institute. That was one of the choices. There was another option. I'll put that link in the show notes for the other option as well. But we discussed, all of those different kind of scenarios. Of course, we can't cover all scenarios because we don't ever know what all scenarios could be. But we did go over, or those forms go over several different scenarios. And then you are to communicate your wishes once you pick those scenarios with the person you're choosing, your agent, so they understand what your wishes are. So all of this has been discussed. And in this section on limitations, again, you can just put none if you completely trust that your agent understands your wishes, or you can even add in, refer to my living will. something, whatever that the name of the official name of the form is.
Yeah, I think if we could go back in time and do this for our kids when they were turning 18, I think that as being the more experienced people in the room, we could help guide them on making sure they pick the right agent. And it might not have been us, especially when we left Fargo and we were no longer there, but Shelby was still there in college, half a country away. That probably would have been a good thing for us to do, looking back for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So there's contact information for speaking to a lawyer and a disclosure statement. I saw it on that site. What does that do?
It's a summary of how the document works. It explains that the agent only has power if a doctor says you are incapacitated.
Okay, let's rephrase that for the kids or the young adults that might be listening. This just means you're unconscious. You cannot communicate your wishes for some reason. You just can't communicate with the doctors.
Exactly. As long as your child can talk clearly, they are still the boss. This is just a safety net for when they cannot speak.
It's kind of scary still just talking about this. So, uh, so when they finish all the questions, they've reviewed everything. What you're going to do is print that out. Now comes the part where it actually makes it a legal and binding document. How do they do that?
So in Texas, a medical power of attorney needs either two witnesses or a notary public. A notary is someone who checks your ID and watches you sign to prove it's really you.
So it's a valid signature at that point. So you can find this notary at a bank, at some shipping stores, and like here in Texas, in Kendall County where we live, they offer this for free at the local offices downtown.
And we recommend doing both options, having two witnesses and a notary. So bring your child and two of their friends who are not related, and then take them to the notary. And here's a tip: use a blue pen, and because it shows the document is an original and not a photocopy.
Okay. Once it's signed and stamped, um, do they just shove it in a safe or in a desk somewhere?
No, they actually need to share it. So they could give a copy to their agents, one to their doctor, and keep the original in a safe place.
Okay. And for that extra copy, maybe putting one in the glove compartment, right? Like attorney Stacey Edwards told us way back in episode 13.
Exactly. If you are in an accident, your car is usually right there. Having a copy in the glove box means the doctors can get the information they need right away. Or actually, if you're an agent for someone else and they're in an accident, you'll already have it in your glove compartment. You don't have to rush home. Another option too is to take a photo of it and have it on your phone. You have it in a safe spot on your phone that you can grab it quickly.
I was just thinking, so if I'm your agent and you're in a car accident and they call me, one of the first things I should tell them is, hey, grab her medical documents. They're in the glove compartment and it has her wishes there. I'm on my way. Something like that.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I also like an idea about an inventory sheet. I'm big on lists. So can you talk about that?
Yes. So what you'll want to do is help your child keep a list of who has a copy. So if they ever decide to pick a new agent later, they can use that list to make sure the old copies are replaced with the new ones. And whoever had a copy before, you communicate with them. Here's my new one, and so forth. So make sure you have of course, your doctors would be listed on there, your agents. Maybe even indicating you had a copy in your glove compartment.
Yeah, this is
So
a great lesson in being a responsible adult. What it's going to do is teach your young adults what what adulting's like, and to have a plan for all those what ifs in life.
that's right. So let's look back at our central question. How can you educate and support your 18-year-old in completing their own medical power of attorney?
What we recommend you do is act as their mentor. First, explain why having a backup person is so important during their independence. It's not about tying them down, it's just about taking care of themselves. I know that in this new generation, um, they need to know the why. Why am I doing this? Why is it so important to me? And if you just explain to them, hey, this is where you have a say in your decisions in case something happens to you and you can't communicate. Make sure that they fully understand that. Second, guide them to the eFile Texas site or your state site so they can do the interview, that questionnaire, for themselves. Third, be available to answer questions about their agent and who their agent should be, the qualities you'd want in a agent that
We've
would
talked about.
would fulfill your wishes. Fourth, walk them through the signing process with a notary and witnesses. And finally, teach them how to share and track the copies that they have out there.
It's all great information. This is all about giving them the confidence to handle their own business while knowing you are there to support them.
Yeah, it's about adulting.
Mm.
So your task for this week is to have a adult grown-up conversation with your 17, 18, even maybe 19, 20-year-old, especially if they're turning 18 soon. Start to talk now. Share this podcast with them so they can complete their own medical power of attorney and be there for them when they need that coach or that person to lean on.
Let them listen to the stories we've shared. Use it as a way to show them you respect their new status as an adult.
Yeah, I think that, maybe even going back to the episode with April, so you can hear from another parent that actually went through this, that I think that would be extremely, extremely helpful. So if your child have any questions while using the eTexas site, email us. You can reach out to us at info@legacytoolkit.com.
And on our next episode, we're going to shine a light on the HIPAA form. It's a foundational document that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and I think it's very important.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you for joining us today. If you found this helpful, please share it with another parent who needs to hear about it.
And make sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcast platform.
So until next time, remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow, and probably the legacy for your young adult. So thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning.